In the heart of Crosswell, a town tucked between weather-worn ridges and endless stretches of farmland, power didn't wear a crown. It carried a badge. And in Crosswell, those badges had long gone unchecked. People whispered, they endured, but they rarely challenged. That was, until a woman named Mariah Cole walked through the courthouse doors in a navy blue suit and a silence that spoke louder than any argument. Mariah wasn't flashy. She didn't arrive in a government car or with a swarm of agents at her back. She parked 2 blocks down, walked the cracked sidewalks past diners and auto shops, and entered like any other citizen. To the deputies lounging near the brick archway, she was no different than the many who came and went another face without a name. The smirks came early, followed by the muttered comments. "Looks like another one come to plead for mercy," one of them chuckled, pushing his sunglasses up the bridge of his nose. "She's probably here for a traffic ticket or some nonsense," another added with a lazy laugh, the sound thick with condescension. Mariah heard every word. She always did. She had learned long ago that the worst things people said were often said when they thought no one important was listening. But she didn't flinch, not even a twitch. Her footsteps didn't pause. Instead, she walked by them with the stillness of someone who'd spent a lifetime learning not to react. Her hands stayed relaxed at her sides, her eyes forward, but her mind recorded at all their faces, their tones, the way they didn't bother to lower their voices. Inside, the courthouse carried the scent of stale air and old files. The fan above the front desk spun with a hollow rattle, barely pushing the heavy humidity around the room. Behind the security checkpoint, 2 officers barely lifted their heads when she approached. "Purpose of visit," one mumbled, eyes still on the small television mounted to the corner. "Observation," Mariah answered evenly. That was all they needed. No questions, no ID request, just a dismissive wave toward the hallway. It was the kind of negligence that had become second nature in places like this. They didn't recognize her name. They didn't know her face. And that, as always, worked to her advantage. The hallway stretched ahead, dimly lit and lined with bulletin boards filled with outdated notices and faded community announcements. Her heels clicked softly on the linoleum, each step slow, deliberate. Her presence was calm, practiced. In rooms like these, it was patience, not pressure, that revealed the truth. She had come to watch. Nothing more. Not yet. Courtroom 3A was already buzzing when she arrived. Lawyers sat slouched at benches, their attention split between their files and their phones. Deputies stood in groups near the front, their laughter loud and familiar. Mariah took a seat on the last bench, alone, unnoticed. She folded her hands in her lap and waited. The jokes came quickly. "She's probably here to beg for her baby daddy's release," one deputy whispered to another. "Nah," a younger one added with a smirk, "shoplifting." Always the same story. Mariah didn't move. She didn't write anything down. Not yet. She didn't need to. Their carelessness said more than any file could. They spoke like men who had never faced consequence, who had never once considered that their words might carry weight beyond the moment. That arrogance, that was what she had come to see. Then the door opened, and the judge entered. He was an older man, weathered but still sharp. Judge Harold Benton had presided over this courtroom for over 20 years, and though he'd seen countless faces pass through, today his demeanor was different. He looked up over his glasses and scanned the room. "We have an important matter today," he said, his voice echoing slightly. The room quieted. "But before we begin," he continued, "I'd like to recognize a guest. Director Mariah Cole of the Federal Bureau of Investigation is here as part of an ongoing federal oversight inquiry." Silence. The shift in the room was instant. The air changed. It thickened. The laughter died, and every face turned toward the woman in the back row. Mariah stood. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The youngest deputy, the one who had joked about her moments before, swallowed hard. His face lost its color. His hands trembled on the seat back in front of him. The older deputy beside him suddenly sat up straighter, eyes darting toward the floor. Mariah's eyes swept over them one by one, calm and unreadable. She wasn't angry. She wasn't smug. She was precise, controlled, a force wrapped in quiet observation. The things they had said, the assumptions they had made, it all hung in the air like smoke. And now they understood. The proceedings continued, but the room never recovered from the reveal. The deputies no longer leaned back in their chairs. They didn't whisper. Their eyes flicked nervously toward her every few moments, watching, waiting, dreading. Mariah took notes, her pen moving silently. But she wasn't documenting the trial. Her attention remained on the men in uniform, their posture, their glances, the way they flinched each time her gaze landed on them. The session dragged on. Property disputes. Misdemeanor charges. A nervous teenager facing his first court appearance for stealing a pack of gum. But beneath it all was the unraveling of something much deeper. The illusion. The invincibility. That was what was dying here. And when the gavel finally fell and the court recessed, the real reckoning began. The agents arrived in silence. No annoncement. No fanfare. Just quiet authority. One by one, they approached the deputies, speaking in low, firm tones. Deputy Travis Lanning, one agent said, "You're suspended pending formal investigation. Badge and weapon, please." Travis, once so smug, now looked like a man caught in a trap he never even saw coming. His fingers fumbled at his belt. Deputy Cole Reynolds, same directive. Deputy Mark Halberd. Deputy Eric Browning. The list continued. Each man pale, silent, stripped of their titles. The very symbols of their power, those polished shields, were taken from them with no ceremony. There were no protests, no denials, just the sound of leather belts unfastening and the occasional shaky breath. Mariah stood near the door. She didn't speak. She didn't move. She simply watched. And in doing so, she held more power than any badge ever could. The agents filed out with the deputies behind them, each step dragging like a man being marched to the gallows. Outside, the sun was beginning to set, casting long golden rays across the parking lot. The courthouse behind her no longer felt invincible. It felt exposed. Mariah exhaled, a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. People would talk. They always did. But this time, the whispers would be different. They wouldn't be whispers of fear or resignation. They'd be whispers of change. Later that night, as Mariah packed her case notes in her rental car, she glanced back at the courthouse, silhouetted in the last light of day. Her job here wasn't done. Not yet, but had begun. The first crack in the wall had been made, and soon others would follow. Justice didn't always come with sirens. Sometimes it walked in quietly and let the silence do the talking.